Welcome to Falcons Drip, your go-to source for Falcons news and draft coverage. I'm Thon, founder and voice of Falcons Drip. As is tradition, today I'm joined by my co-hosts Jeff and Ferg. We're going to take a look at the running back position in the continuation of our roster breakdown. We're going to take a look at these running backs and discuss who's on the team now, who's going to continue to be on the team, and what we kind of expect for them for the season coming forward. But before that, I like to always check in and see how you guys are doing. So, Ferg, how are we doing today?
Good. How you doing, Thon?
I'm doing pretty well.
Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Had a busy day at work, but now...
well, we're not at work, are we?
No, definitely not. So now I'm feeling good.
Well, I don't know.
Relaxed.
Would you guys? Would we consider this work? Is this work?
I enjoy it. So
I do too.
I don't
work
think...
can be enjoyable, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I guess it's.
I mean,
how do you define work, right?
I think, for me, I'm already looking at the stuff, so sitting down and talking about it doesn't seem like anything more for me.
Sure. The research and the what led up till now, or to now, excuse me. Mm-hmm. That's the work, right? That's the work aspect.
Definitely. So let's just jump into these running backs, guys. And we're sitting here looking at the Falcons, at their roster, and you can't help but think that Mike Davis is going to come in and be RB1. People are worried because he's old, but there's really not a lot of tread on his tires. He's really kind of been a little bit of a journeyman and kind of had a backup role up until last year where he kind of took over for Christian McCaffrey. So I think he's going to do pretty well for us. And all you can do is hope he comes in and he performs as well as he did last season.
Yeah, I think unless Mike Davis gets injured, he's a clear-cut number one. Mm-hmm. After Mike Davis, it's a toss-up. Quadri Olesen is probably going to be number two, but I think it's a toss-up. And prior to the podcast starting, we had a little discussion about everyone coming after Mike Davis on the depth chart. Mm-hmm. Before I dive down that hole, Jeff, what do you think?
Mike Davis is definitely going to be number one. I think he's a good fit for the direction the team looks like it's going. Arthur Smith had a lot of success with a different power running back last year. Mike Davis definitely fits more of that power mold. So he looks, they brought him in for a reason. It looks like he's going to be the starter, and he looks real good.
And when you look at it too, if you could look at the numbers, Mike Davis has averaged about 3.7, 3.9 yards a carry. But this will be the best offense for running the ball he's been in, just as far as scheme plus offensive line. Some of these other, Carolina, Chicago, Seattle's offensive line has been pretty poor. San Francisco, in the years he was in San Francisco, I believe their offensive line wasn't too great, and even then he didn't get a lot of touches.
Yeah, San Francisco hasn't had a great offensive line for some years now.
So they had one, I'm trying to remember, they had one for a little bit, and then they died down, and then now with Kyle Shanahan being over there, it doesn't matter.
I got to say, it's really interesting how on the offensive line, it takes more than just one guy, right? It takes more than just one guy anywhere on the field, but specifically in the offensive line, if you got two guys, you can kind of balance it out, right? But you see a lot of teams, they'll draft a guy or they'll pick someone up out of free agency, or they'll trade for the offensive line, one of those positions on the offensive line. And it's just, unless you have someone to complement whoever that individual may be, it just doesn't really work. The offensive line is truly defensive line. You can have one.
You can have Aaron Donald,
right? Who just dominates, and it's very difficult to pick that guy up. Right?
It's different because the offensive line, all you need is one weak link, and that's what defenses are going to attack.
It's quite the opposite.
Yeah,
it's quite the opposite. You need strength across the board.
Yeah. So, but we're going to dive into offensive line in a later podcast. So, I think this is going to be the best situation that Mike Davis has been in, and I believe he's probably going to get the most touches this year than he ever has.
Yeah, I think it'll be similar to some of the workload he got in Carolina when McCaffrey was out.
Mm-hmm.
So if barring any unforeseen issues, it should be a full year of it. And like you said, it's a better running situation. So we should see a lot more success there. You'll probably see less of him in the passing game than he was used in Carolina, because Carolina has a very focused attack on using the running back in the passing game, because that's what McCaffrey's strengths are. So
yeah, and we'll jump into this a little later, but I think there's other guys that will be utilized kind of in the passing game more than Mike Davis might be. Although Mike Davis does do well in the pass game. He has good hands, and he doesn't have like great straightaway speed, but he's got some nice little wiggle to him. And he had the second most broken tackles last year, just behind Nick Chubb. And a lot of those came from catching the ball in the flats and kind of giving the defender a little shake and bullying his way for a couple extra yards. So I think we will see him in the pass game, but maybe not like we did to the extent of last season.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see him in the pass game all that much. It just depends. It depends on what they do with Corduroy Patterson. Quadri Patterson is one of those guys that it's hard to say. It's hard to say what kind of season he'll have or where the Falcons will use him the most, because he's a Swiss Army knife. You can use Corel Patterson in a lot of different areas, but he's also not optimal in any of those areas, right? Or at least he hasn't shown us that he has the ability to be optimal in any of those areas, with the exception of special teams. Special teams he's done very well. He made 4 Pro Bowls, and he's a good player. He's a great athlete. But the reason I bring Corel Patterson up is because I think he's the biggest question mark, specifically on that RB spot, or at that RB spot and at that wide receiver spot on the depth chart.
So as big of a question as he is, like what do you think his role will be going forward?
It's really hard to say. I think that he opens up a lot for the Falcons. The Falcons have so many athletes. They really do. They have a lot of athletes. Calvin Ridley is an athlete. Calvin Ridley, you could run a jet sweep with Calvin Ridley, right? You could now you got Pitts at the tight end position, who's a phenomenal athlete. You could bump him out wide. He doesn't necessarily have to play at the tight end position. You've got Corduroy Patterson, who he could take handoffs, and he can also, he could also bump out wide, or maybe even play in the slot. And that's what I really like. And so the reason I bring that up, and I'll shorten out my point here. The reason I bring that up is that it depends on what the coaching staff needs at any given time, right? In any given game, it depends on what the coaching staff needs. I don't think Corduroy Patterson is someone that you can determine at this stage or at this point in time where he'll be utilized the most. I just don't. But I do think that they're going to use him, and I certainly hope he has seasons like he had earlier on in his career. Chicago, he had some flashes, but he didn't do super well when he was with Chicago.
Yeah, and he was he's a receiver for a long time, then kind of turned running back.
Right.
So with that being said, I kind of think about what Pitts is going to mean to this offense, and that versatility, and that rolling Pitts out they're going to have to account for him like a tight end, but at the same time they can go wide. Same thing with Patterson. They can roll out with him, and they have to treat him as a running back if Atlanta's lining him up as a running back.
In an indirect way,
they bump him out wide.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you say that, because in an indirect way, I think those two are going to play off of each other. Not necessarily those two play off of each other, but the coaching staff will use those two to play off of the other team, I guess you could say, right?
And same thing, like if they give Matt Ryan, one of the things he does best is he checks plays, audibles, no huddle. And if you roll out with Corel Patterson and Kyle Pitts, and they think they've got some matchup issue, like the defense's matchup issues, they're going to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
So just kind of going off of what you were saying, I know for me, when I look at this depth chart, Corduroy Patterson is for sure making the roster. He's going to be the kick return guy, and I think they're going to use him frequently on offense, maybe not as like just the third down back, but kind of as just like a gadget player. I think he's going to get a decent amount of reps out there.
And I think the Falcons need him too. Frankly, I think they need him to produce. The reason I say that I think they need him to produce. What were you going to say, Thon?
I was just going to say this kind of goes back to the Julio Jones conversation. Like everyone needs to step up, and he's one of those guys. He's one of those guys.
He has to step up. Jeff, please chime in. Man, I don't think we've heard from you on this yet, and I think. Well, you know what? Go ahead. I was going to say, I think that your opinion, your perspective differs from both Thon and myself.
I think you're going to see him like Thon did in a gadget type role. I don't know how much we're going to see him necessarily at the real running back position. I could see him coming out and using him to figure out what defense the other team is in. Use him in a lot of motion and make the other team think.
I like that a lot.
And have to not be able to just react, have to pause and open up some other stuff, some other options for the rest of the players out there.
And I think, though, like you'll have to see him in the running back role, though, because I think that's what opens it up. Because if they come out every single time and he's in jet motion or he's out wide, they're not going to take it as seriously. But if you give him, let's say 5 to 10 plays in the backfield each game, even give him a couple runs up the middle, like then you have to respect it.
Well, and I think that serves to Jeff's point. I want to try to bridge the gap here. It's not that we all agree. We definitely don't all agree. I just want to be very clear about that. We all have varying perspectives. But using him as a scout, right, essentially is like like I use scout. The reason I say scout is I'm thinking military terms, right? You have your scouts, right, that go out there to kind of probe the enemy, and that's what Jeff said about Corduroy Patterson, that he thinks the Falcons may use Corduroy Patterson to kind of probe the defense, And I think that's probably a good read. I could see why, but that serves Thon's point. In that they'd have to throw him at the RB position as well. Or they could, not necessarily have to, but they could throw him at the RB position to probe a little bit as well.
In order to maximize what they can do with him, he's going to need touches as just a straight-up running back. And I think that's why Arthur Smith's come out and said he's a running back, just flat out. Like, he's a running – and he has said that he's going to use him in different areas too, but he said he's a running back first and foremost.
And now let's just do it. Let's just pull the top off this thing. Being that he said he's a running back, what does that say about Corduroy Patterson, right? What does that say about how much are we going to see him? Because you can't take a guy, let's just be totally, like I said, let's pull the top off this thing. You can't take a guy who's made 4 Pro Bowls and who you could say is still he's in his prime, right? He's only been in the league for what, 7-8 years?
Yeah, he's 29.
He's in his prime. He's 29, he's 29. So what does that say about Corduroy Patterson? Someone who has shown us flashes of greatness, hence his nickname Flash. I don't think that's why they call him Flash, but that's why I'm calling him Flash. Flashes of greatness. What does that say about his career, right? That he's been able to show us some really, really good and profound show us that he's been able to make a profound impact when in a starting role, or not even just a starting role, but when worked into the lineup. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can take a guy like that and just kind of, he's going to be a running back. He's a running back, and it may change, right? Right now he's a running back.
And I think part of that too is like that could all be deception from Arthur Smith.
It could be,
right?
And that's back. It could.
Meanwhile, and he did get a lot of reps at running back at the OTAs, and basically during OTAs a couple weeks ago. It was Quadri Olesen taking the first reps, and Corel Patterson was taking the next amount of reps. And I don't know. That could very well just be to get him used to the scheme. We have no clue at this point what's going to happen. Kind of like you said right in the beginning.
Yeah,
it's Mike Davis, and then this is the rest of speculation. Because as much as I like Corduroy Patterson and the things he can do to this offense, I like Javian Hawkins just as much, if not maybe even more. And I know, Jeff, you've done a lot of looking into Javian Hawkins and kind of what he's going to bring to this team. And I really think he could wind up being our third down back.
Here's the thing. If Corel Patterson were 4 years older than he is now, I could see potentially Hawkins, coming into – I could see Hawkins making I don't think it's a question of whether or not Hawkins is going to make the roster, right? I mean, we're pretty certain he's going to make the roster here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I could see him I could see there be, and I mean, we've talked about this before. I think if Corduroy Patterson were 4 years old, 3-4 years older, we could potentially talk about him not even making the roster. I mean that.
I don't think he makes the roster in 4
Interesting.
years. I would be.
You're saying in 4 years?
Yeah,
not
4
this
years.
year.
No,
I
I'm
don't
saying
think-
now though, right? And that's why.
Right,
that's
I'm saying
why
in 4 years, I don't think Corduroy Patterson is on an NFL
I
team.
agree, man. I agree, but I'm saying now. And that's why I said now. In terms of his comparison to Hawkins, I don't think it's something that we need really discuss at this moment. But 4 years down the road, 3 years down the road, I would jump on this and I'd say, yeah, let's talk about it, because I could see Corel Patterson just getting dished.
Mm-hmm. Maybe not, like, in with all the special teams aspects that we have in this team and all the returners. If he wasn't already like a great returner and almost a sure thing, plus this gadget type player, I could see us not keeping him on the team.
Absolutely.
But kind of jumping into Javian Hawkins, Jeff, what are you thinking about him?
I'm thinking he's gonna have a real role as that third down running back. I know we talked about Corduroy getting reps, but like I said, I see him as more of a gadget. He will get reps at running back, but he's going to be used more in, I think, interesting ways, not just like really a running back. And I think Hawkins is an incredible athlete. He's a little small, but if he just gets a touch of space, he can make gigantic plays. He had 3 touchdowns of over 70 yards or more in 2020 in college.
They call him PlayStation for a reason.
Yeah, they call him PlayStation because he moves like a video game character.
And I'm honestly curious here. Why do you see him moving into a position that may nudge out Quadri Patterson at the RB role?
Because Corel Patterson has done okay at the running back, okay at wide receiver. He's, at this point, mostly a known quantity. He could still surprise us. He could develop into a better player. Everybody keeps hoping he will. That's why he keeps getting great jobs.
I don't think he will. I don't think he's going to develop into a better player. You know what I mean? I think really what it's going to take at this point in his career after 8 years in the NFL is a coach to find his niche for him, right? To place him in his niche. Anyway, I don't mean to steal your thunder. I just wanted to throw that out there. You talking about Hawkins and how he compares to Patterson, and especially kind of, maybe even contributing to Patterson being worked out of the RB lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's Patterson is, like you said, he's finding the role will be important, and Hawkins he was incredible in college. He worked well in his own scheme. They're running his own scheme again, and it just takes, like I said, a little bit of room for him to have explosive plays, and they'll use him more in a third down role because he's not going to be the punisher at his size. He's going to be a change of pace, and he should be a good fit, I think.
How many touches do you think he gets a game, Jeff?
I think it depends somewhat on who they're playing and what.
Sure, like if
what the linebackers are.
If they're
what
up
the situation is,
Yeah,
right? Like if
right.
they're up, they're probably going to pound the rock.
Yeah.
Right.
and probably not going to pound it with RB1, right?
You'll see Olesen probably pounding the rock when they're winning by a decent amount.
So here's something else that I kind of want to bring forward just as in favor of Javian Hawkins, because I really do. I think he's going to come in, and by the end of the season, I think he's going to be the third down back. If you look at in college, he had 231 pass block attempts in college, and he gave up 0 sacks. So even though he's 5'8", 185 pounds, in college, he was phenomenal at pass blocking. Like, he just got it done. Sure, he's a little small. He can get bullied, and this is the NFL.
He played in a good conference, though. He played, he's Louisville. I mean, that's played a good conference.
Like I said, he's a little small, and there's a big jump from NFL to from college to the NFL, but it's a start, right? He's going to come in and probably try and find a way to figure it out. That being said, Ledford, who is the O-line coach and offensive coordinator for Louisville, who coached Javian Hawkins, is now the offensive line coach in Atlanta. So there's a familiarity there, and I think that's going to be a huge development, huge for Javian Hawkins' development. And also like what the team already knows and what they believe in this kid. He's a prized UDFA being undrafted free agent. He was one of the top guys that they wanted, and part of that probably was the connection with Dwayne Ledford and what would they know about him. And just kind of jumping back to Corel Patterson, the Falcons' new pass game coordinator. He's the offensive coordinator, but really he's just going to be kind of setting up the playbook and doing that kind of stuff for Arthur Smith. He was the pass game coordinator at Chicago, so he knows all about Corel Patterson and how to use him. So I'm pretty excited about these guys, really. I think they could both, we don't know what's going to happen, but I think we have enough information about these guys to really set them up for success.
Yeah, and a counterpoint to almost what you just said about Corduroy, about the passing game coordinator being familiar with him. He had his worst receiving years really in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So he might know him, but they didn't use him as much as he got used previously.
But that might not have been his call.
It might not have been.
Yeah.
I just mean...
My point is just that there's a familiarity, so hopefully they can figure it out.
Hopefully it does figure it out.
There's a difference between Arthur
size,
Smith and Jim Nagy.
Yeah. Makes me think of work done. Just his size,
You talking about Javian Hawkins?
Yeah, I'm going back to Javian Hawkins. Sorry about that. I was
you're
looking
fine.
up pictures of work done, just kind of a throwback.
Yeah.
And I saw.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how tall he was, or not work done. Excuse me, Hawkins. I didn't realize what.
I think he's 5'8".
He's tiny, man.
Yeah.
When you said that, I started looking it up because I was just curious.
Sometimes it works though, because then like they kind of hide behind the offensive lineman and they just kind of,
especially if you're explosive, right?
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
which he
we've
is.
seen a lot of success with those shorter, explosive players,
Mm-hmm.
specifically at RB or the flex.
Definitely. So we haven't talked about Quadri Olesen much, but I know we've mentioned him a little bit, and we're all in pretty much agreement. He's RB2 in the sense that in the like heavy rundowns, in the if Mike Davis goes down, Quadri Olesen's probably going to be the primary benefactor of that and seeing more of the touches and more of the workload. If Mike Davis goes down, I bet everyone gets a little bit more, but I think Olesen really jumps up in his production.
Well, schematically, he's a good backup because he plays somewhat similar to Mike Davis. He's not as good at breaking tackles. He's maybe not as good in the pass game, but they run similarly. Mm-hmm. So schematically, you don't have to change as much how you game plan. So there's a lot of benefit there. Definitely.
And when you look at it too, like he did pretty well his rookie year, and then we brought in Todd Gurley, and he just kind of fell back in the bench. Todd Gurley was really almost like a sideshow just to get more fans because he really didn't perform well. I would have liked to see more of Olesen last season. So Olesen also too, he had a 99-yard touchdown run in college. So even though he's really not the fastest, he's fast enough. And he ran the zone scheme in Pittsburgh. So, like you said, Jeff, he's just like he's the perfect replacement. And I could really see, Mike Davis has 2 years left. He's 29 years old. I could see Olesen kind of coming in and potentially being the long-term long-term running back in Atlanta.
He has the potential, and he just has to take advantage of it right now because this is the time.
And, like we already said this already, but in OTAs, he was, with Mike Davis out, he was RB1.
It was a smart thing he tended.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, because with Olesen, like they said how well he was doing, but I got an inside source, and they were telling me that they love the Falcons they love both their undrafted free agents and Javian Hawkins, and they really like Caleb Huntley too. And he was fun, in my opinion, he was fun to watch at Ball State. I mean, he really was like a little bowling ball. I mean, he's 5'10", 230 pounds, and guys just kind of bounce off him. When I watch him, I can't help but think about the bus and Jerome Bettis. Like, he's obviously not as big as the bus, but the way he runs and the way he looks, like, he doesn't look like your typical running back. Like, he looks like a little heavy, runs a little awkwardly. But I see Jerome Bettis when he runs the ball.
Yeah, I don't love him. I don't love Caleb Huntley for the simple fact that Ball State that's not a strong division. You know, I mean, he's 5'10", 230 pounds, and when you look at his highlight tape, right, you look at the videos, 5'10", 230, by the way, that's not – I mean, we were talking about guys – for instance, we're talking about Corel Patterson earlier. Corel Patterson is – you know, he's 6'2", 240, and he's a special teams wide receiver.
I don't think he's 240.
Yeah. 6'2", 240.
He's big, though.
Big guy. He's got some.
He's big.
Yeah,
for
I thought he was like 230, but yeah, still 240.
My point ultimately
but
is
6'2" is just also very tall.
Definitely.
No, yeah, right. But 5'10", 230. The reason I bring that up is you say Jerome Bettis. I don't know what Jerome Bettis. You know, in fact, maybe one
Jerome
of
Bettis is probably, if I were to guess, Jerome Bettis is probably 6'250", if I were to guess.
6'2", 250.
Yeah, if I were to guess.
All right. Well, let's see here.
So we're losing 2 inches and 20 pounds, which they say
5'11", 250.
There you go.
Okay.
He was actually over 250.
Mm-hmm.
But
definitely near the end of his career, he looked it.
Oh yeah, right. Remember seeing him running that Super Bowl, that last Super Bowl? The bus stops here. You know, he had a Dunlap. It was hanging over his belt.
But so obviously, like when you compare a guy, we're talking about a Hall of Fame guy, right? Like, I don't think he's going to be quality Hall of Fame guy. When I say like this is who this guy reminds me of, it's not necessarily
his run style.
It's exactly
Gotcha.
Style and like what he looks like, not necessarily like the.
But that's
quality.
That's why I say, and I agree with you. I agree with that run style, that kind of downhill runner, right?
Yeah. You know, churns his legs. You see kind of guys bounce off him a little bit.
I don't think. Did you got linebackers in the NFL who are running 4.4s and they're 260 pounds? My point is, this guy's 5'10", 230 pounds, and what did he run? What was it, 40 time? It wasn't quick.
It wasn't
like
great.
4.6 or something. 4.5. It was something
high 4.5s, low 4.6s.
Yeah, it was not great. And so
that's what Mike Davis ran. Mike Davis, I think, ran like a 4.66.
Sure.
I want to say.
Well, and that's it. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I don't think Mike Davis and Caleb Huntley have, the exact same run style, as you pointed out. Caleb Huntley will have to adapt and adjust his play, in my opinion, in order to not just make an impact on or for the Atlanta Falcons, a positive impact, but to preserve his career as an NFL player, he'll have to change his style.
So, like, when you watch him, I think he has better, like, wiggle and better long speed than you'd expect.
Sure.
Right? So, like,
it's Ball State, though, man. Like, wasn't Ball State D1 AA a couple of years ago?
I'm not sure. But,
there's nothing wrong with that because UFC was D1 AA, like, not that long ago. And
but good,
UFC's
good running backs.
Ranked every year.
Good running backs come out of everywhere.
I know they do. Of course they do.
And he had the production at Ball State. It's not like we're talking about a guy who went to Ball State and barely played.
Right. Antonio Brown went to what, Kent State or something like that.
Michigan, Central Michigan.
Central Michigan. Right. Right. It was not a big school, not a great conference. Central Michigan, I'm almost positive, is D1 AA.
No, I don't know.
I really
can't
don't
remember.
Yeah, it's speculative.
You got me all turned around.
Here's the thing, though. The point that I'm getting at, and I'll bring it all together here, is that his style of play worked at Ball State. It worked at Ball State because in that conference, you're not getting guys that you'd get over at Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State, And so if you try that run style, meaning not try that run style, but if you're his size and you bring that run style to Ohio State, I just don't.
So it's just so different, right? Like you want.
I think he would surprise you.
Huh?
I think he would surprise you.
I hope he does.
I think he runs upright. He runs a little awkward. Doesn't always make.
It's his awkwardness. That's what gets me. He is a very awkward runner. He's not fluid whatsoever.
And also, too, like one of the things, like one of his downsides. Sorry to cut you off, Jeff. One of his some of his downsides too are like fixable things, right? Like I don't think his vision is all that great. I think sometimes.
But how
he's
fixable is it? And that's the thing. How correctable is vision? At this point in the game, you know what I'm saying? Like when you're a young player, or in anything. When you're younger, it's easier to learn things. It's easier to learn languages. It's easier to learn martial arts. It's easier to learn in school. As you get older, you fall into your routines. You fall into your habits, and those routines and habits for him are his run style, his vision. They're his attributes as a running back.
But now football is his life. He's not worried about school. He's not worried about whatever else he's got going on. This is his job.
Yeah,
and he's gonna have Mike Davis. He's not expected to come in right away and be good. And again, he's an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
So it's low risk.
I like that we're talking about it, though. I like that we're debating about Caleb Huntley because he's one of those guys that I certainly would like to see him surprise me. I just think with the roster we have now,
I don't think he's gonna. I think he's gonna be on the practice squad. I think he's a lock for.
Oh, you think he's a lock for practice squad? Okay. Yeah, I might be able to get down with that. A lock for practice squad. I don't see why not. I don't see why he wouldn't make practice squad.
Jeff, what were you gonna say? We went off a tangent.
I just said he's an awkward runner, kind of clunky, but he stays upright and he gets extra yards. His decisiveness isn't great. We'll see if he can fix that at the next level, and it'll be interesting to see him in the passing game.
When you say decisiveness, you mean like decision making or like?
Yeah,
I
like
just want more.
Where should I hit and should I hit now?
Got it.
Like the whole
Right.
how should I like get to the next level?
Guys, you know what? We've seen players like that who have had Jeff. I don't mean to interrupt you, but we've seen players like that who have done very, very well. Right?
Definitely. And I think though too, like with Arthur Smith and the run scheme that he has, and having worked with Derrick Henry. He's just going to say, "Look, buddy, you got to hit the hole."
Yeah, sure, right. You got to hit it, right? Mm-hmm. It's but we've seen waiting. We've seen waiting.
Well, he's not like the Le'Veon Bell type of waiting and finding the hole like that. That's a whole different thing. He's not hitting.
See, and that's what I was talking about, Le'Veon Bell. That's
he's not.
I didn't want to say
like
his name because of what's happening with Le'Veon Bell right now. Or I guess what has happened.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like that. He's not finding the perfect opportunity. He's just. He needs a little bit of work there, and he needs no clue what we're getting out of him in the passing game.
Yeah.
Wasn't used in it, really. So it's hard to know if he's capable or not capable.
Sure.
If he's not capable, this is a tough league right now to not be a part of the passing game.
That's a great point, Jeff. I'm so glad Jeff brought that up.
Definitely. But you know what I could see really? Like, I could see Caleb Huntley ending up being like RB2 on our team. Maybe not RB1, but like –
when
you could see in 3 years, let's say the committee. Let's say that in 3 years, the committee could end up being Quadri Olesen as RB1, Javian Hawkins as the third down, change up back, and you could see Caleb Huntley being RB2.
Let's just be clear for everyone: Mike Davis won't be here. Mike Davis is going to be out of the league in 3-4 years.
That's what I
He's
assume.
a saltine warrior. He's.
It's just so what is he? 27 or 28?
He's an older guy. He's about to hit that 30 mark, and we've seen it unwavering. 30 years of age, running backs.
Yeah, it's very few guys make it past 30.
Absolutely,
there aren't a lot of Frank Gores out there.
No, Frank Gore. It should be called the Frank Gore rule. Or, it's Adrian Peterson tried it, and it just didn't work.
He's doing okay, but not what.
His production, though, at 30 years of age compared to what it was at 29 years of age, significantly different.
I mean, there's a reason why they signed Mike Davis for 2 years.
Yeah.
And Corel Patterson for 1.
Yeah.
Corel Patterson next year is going to be 30. And I don't know when Mike Davis's birthday is. He's going to be... He's going to be 29, 30 in 2 years. Right. So the only thing going for Mike Davis, like I said in the beginning, is he doesn't have a ton of tread on his tires, which might, I don't know. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's going to be better for him. Maybe 30 is going to be the mark anyways. But I could see Huntley going back. I could see Huntley being an RB2 in the league for a while, and maybe even in a couple years after that, it's Quadri Olesen's gone, and we see Huntley and Hawkins, being the 1 and 2, or however they want to deploy them. Or, good running backs come out every single year.
Yeah.
We could see Huntley be on the practice squad this year and then kind of fall off.
Running back is one of those positions. I totally agree. There is such turnover at the running back position. It's not like QB where you'll see the same rotation of quarterbacks potentially for 5, 6, 7 years, right? running back, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. And every year there's good running backs.
Absolutely, every year.
Undrafted guys come out.
Think about it. And it's because it's not just running backs you can put at running back. You can take anyone who's a good athlete, who's fast or quick, you could throw them at running back.
Well, most of the time in high school, too. Like when you're looking at high school, your best players are playing running backs. So
exactly.
A lot of your college
they
linebackers and other – they were running backs, and then they go and they play corner or they play linebacker, depending on their size. And, or quarterback, obviously. But if you can't throw, you play running back. So just kind of talking about turnover, we got to talk about Tony Brooks-James because he's kind of like the last guy on this roster as far as running backs go. And I just don't see a bright future for Tony Brooks-James in Atlanta.
It's going to be tough. He's a talented running back, but there's a lot of guys ahead of him, and there's only so much room on the practice squad and especially on the roster. So we've already talked about, 5 guys ahead of him? 4, 5? So chances he has any future outside after training camp is low in Atlanta.
The only way he sticks around is he has to show that he's an absolute ace on special teams. He can't be good and able to play. Also, he has to be an ace on special teams to the point where they say, we got to keep this guy on.
Yep, I agree.
But I don't see that happening. There's too many. We've got too many. This offseason we really looked at special teams guys, and there's too many special teams aces on this team for me to sit there and say, I think Tony Brooks-James is going to make it. Ferg, what are you thinking about Tony?
I don't think he's going to make it. Sorry, Tony. That's really all I have to say. I don't think he's going to make it.
So, looking at these guys, I think we're kind of all in agreement, and let me know if you guys think I'm wrong. Mike Davis is RB1. Quadri Olesen is, RB2, kind of taking over if Mike Davis goes down. Maybe doesn't get a ton of reps if Mike Davis doesn't go down, right? So if Mike Davis is healthy, we might not see a lot of Quadri Olesen. He might just be kind of coming in to give Mike Davis a breather and not really schemed in. Then you've got Hawkins and Patterson. Hawkins, I think, and I don't know, Ferg, maybe you feel a little differently, but I think Jeff and I think he's going to kind of be the third down back and see more and more touches as time goes on. But he's going to kind of be out there for passing and getting the ball, maybe blocking a little bit. And then you got Corel Patterson, who's going to be, we might see Corel Patterson out there with other running backs. There were times where Arthur Smith had 2 running backs out in the field, and one of the running backs was playing fullback. Maybe we see Olesen out there playing fullback for Patterson a couple times, and then you see Patterson kind of get bumped out to wide receiver with Olesen in the backfield. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they could do with him. So kind of like you guys said, a gadget type player used in different ways.
Yeah.
So would you guys agree kind of?
Yeah, that's the expectation.
Yeah.
Is different lineup for
to
Corduroy.
round the discussion off with Corduroy Patterson. Jeff, I'm always interrupting you. Sorry. But I agree with Jeff. Gadget player, but he could make more of an impact. We'll definitely see him a little bit at special teams. Not a little bit. We're going to see him at on the special teams.
At 6, at 6'4", or at 6'2", 240, like you said,
just,
if you can unlock the potential of Patterson, which maybe these guys can.
It's not even him at this point. We need a coach who can figure out where he can be of the greatest impact. Right, that's what we need.
Definitely. So we've got 4 guys, right? Looking at this, we have 4 guys making the roster, in our opinion. Davis, Olesen, Patterson, Hawkins. And then Caleb Huntley on the practice squad. Because if Olesen or Mike Davis go down, I think Huntley has a chance to kind of be brought up.
Yeah, I would think so. Because I don't think you can rely on Hawkins necessarily to be every down back in the NFL at this point. And Patterson, we said we don't think we can rely on him either.
Yeah.
You got to have a backup. So I would think there's opportunity for him if that situation happens.
So are we all kind of in agreement?
Yeah.
And then Tony Brooks-James is just kind of the odd man out.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Definitely. Tony Brooks-James does not make the team. Start looking for a job, buddy.
Wow.
Poor Tony. Tony, if you're listening to this podcast, I am so sorry. But with that, guys, so we kind of went over running backs.
I'm sure he's a great guy, but he's not going to make the team.
Not everybody does. Not everybody can. I like Tony Brooks. I like Tony Brooks-James' chances over John Rain.
Oh man, you guys.
I'm so sorry, John.
John Rain. Oh, good Lord.
All right, guys. So with that, we're going to kind of come to an end. Jeff, any closing words?
Just that I definitely think we talked about. I think Hawkins is going to have some plays this year, and I think he's going to have the opportunity to really have an impact.
Definitely. Well, thanks again for your help, guys. So that's the running back position and kind of what we think is going to be happening this upcoming season with it. Next episode, we're going to take a look at wide receivers and kind of same thing, just the positional breakdowns. Again, this is Thon Ray. You guys can follow us at Falcons_drip on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Please make sure you subscribe, follow, whatever you need to do to get the alert for our next episode. If you guys enjoyed today, please leave us a review. It always helps us grow. Until then, see you next time. Rise up.